One sentence from Kash Patel stopped the show cold, and Jasmine Crocke exploded on live TV. What did he say? Why did she lose control? This moment is shaking up Washington, and we've got the full story. It was supposed to be just another political debate. It was a quiet Sunday morning for most viewers, just another panel discussion on one of the nation's leading news networks. Politics, opinions, and heated exchanges, nothing out of the ordinary. But no one was prepared for what was about to unfold live on air. Millions tuned in expecting a standard back and forth between lawmakers and political strategists. Instead, what they got was a front-row seat to one of the most jaw-dropping moments in recent political media history. At the center of it all, two explosive figures from opposite ends of the political battlefield. Kash Patel, a former high-level intelligence official in the Trump administration, known for his blunt style and insider knowledge, and Congresswoman Jasmine Crocke, a rising star in the Democratic Party, known for her fiery passion and unapologetic voice. The topic that morning was government oversight, ethics in Washington, and alleged influence from foreign powers. Heavy subjects, but not unusual for a political roundtable. Crocke came in ready to fight for transparency and fairness. Patel came in with a quiet confidence, holding a thin folder that barely anyone noticed at first. Then, just minutes into the discussion, the conversation took a sharp and unexpected turn. In response to a question about potential conflicts of interest in Washington, Patel leaned forward slightly, glanced at Crocke, and with a calm but pointed tone said, "I think we need to ask why certain members of Congress are so afraid of foreign influence investigations, especially when some of their own staff might be involved." A long pause followed. Crockett's eyes locked onto Patel's, her expression hardening instantly. The moderator tried to move the discussion forward, but it was too late. The mood had shifted. Everyone in the studio knew something was about to go down. Then came the words that would ignite the firestorm. "I've seen the communications," Patel added. "I've seen the travel logs. It's not speculation. It's real. And it's coming out." He never mentioned a name. He didn't have to. The tone, the timing, and the direct stare made it clear that this bombshell was aimed directly at Crocke, or someone very close to her political orbit. The implication? That someone in her inner circle may be connected to shady dealings involving foreign lobbyists. The reaction was instant. Crocke leaned forward, her voice rising. "Are you insinuating that I'm involved in something illegal? That someone in my office is under investigation? Because if you are, you better say it with your chest and bring receipts." Patel didn't flinch. He simply held up the thin folder and said, "You'll want to read this when it hits the committee. Floor next week." Boom. That was it. The moment that made jaws drop across the country. The tension in the room became electric. Viewers watching at home started recording, rewinding, and sharing clips. The internet, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, erupted. In seconds, hashtags like Crocke vs. Patel, live TV explosion, and who got exposed were trending. Everyone was asking the same question. What just happened? But the most unforgettable part of the moment wasn't just what was said. It was how quickly things spiraled out of control. Crocke, normally sharp and composed, looked genuinely rattled. Her voice cracked with anger and disbelief as she fired back, accusing Patel of slander, of character assassination, and of weaponizing half-truths for political gain. "This is dangerous," she said. "What you're doing right now, live on national television, is reckless and completely without integrity. You're not here for truth. You're here for attention." The moderator, clearly out of his depth, tried to cut to commercial, but the fireworks kept flying. By the time the show finally went to break, the story was already viral. Clips were circulating like wildfire, each with its own spin. Some praised Patel for exposing the swamp. Others blasted him for making unproven accusations live on air. And many defended Crocke, calling her response courageous in the face of what they viewed as a political ambush. In that single moment, A routine discussion turned into a defining media spectacle, the kind of raw, unscripted political theater that only live television can deliver. But what did Patel really have? Was it truly evidence of wrongdoing or just a cleverly timed distraction? Was Crockett overreacting, or was this the calculated attack of someone trying to rattle her on purpose? One thing was clear. The clip had taken on a life of its own. The debate wasn't just about the facts anymore. It was about optics, power, and public perception. And in today's digital age, sometimes that's all it takes to change everything. It began like any typical segment on a respected Sunday morning political show. The theme, a federal investigation that had been slowly gaining traction in the media, involving questions of ethics, government transparency, and foreign influence. But what producers and viewers alike didn't expect was that this seemingly routine panel discussion would become the epicenter of one of the most viral, talked-about political confrontations of the year. Two of the most recognizable names in modern political discourse were set to appear. Congresswoman Jasmine Crocke, a fiery Democratic lawmaker known for her sharp comebacks and unfiltered passion, and Kash Patel, a former national security aide and staunch ally of the Trump wing of the Republican Party. Both were experienced, both were battle-tested, and both were clearly ready for a fight. From the opening moments, the energy was electric. The host posed the usual questions about the ongoing federal probe. Who knew what, when, and whether there were double standards being applied, depending on political affiliation. Crockett came out swinging. Her tone was confident, and her language was precise. This is what the American people are sick of. Right-wing media, spinning vague investigations into full-blown conspiracies before the facts are even out, she said, tapping the table, for emphasis. Patel, cool and unbothered, didn't take the bait. Not immediately. He smiled, nodded, and waited for his turn. When it came, he started with typical talking points. Concerns about accountability, transparency, and equal application of the law. But then, with the kind of calculated calm that immediately shifts the tone of any room, Patel dropped the first spark. Let's be real. We all know this isn't about fairness. It's about who can get away with what. And from what I've seen, there are people on Capitol Hill right now who should be very nervous. The host tilted their head, sensing something more. Are you suggesting members of Congress are involved? That's when Patel leaned in slightly, his eyes locking directly with Crockett's. The camera zoomed in, and that moment, that look, would soon be screenshotted and shared millions of times across the internet. Let's just say, Patel began slowly, I've seen communications, emails, travel records, that strongly suggest a prominent Democratic aide has been coordinating with foreign lobbying groups in ways that raise serious legal questions. The air left the room. No names, no hard accusations. But the suggestion was clear. And then came the sentence that ignited the explosion. You might want to tell your colleagues to start lawyering up. Crockett's eyebrows shot up. The host glanced nervously at the producers behind the camera. The panel went silent. Even the usually chaotic social media feeds froze for a split second before going into overdrive. It was the kind of silence you only get before a storm. Crockett sat back for a moment, blinking, processing. You could see the fury rising just beneath her composed surface. This wasn't just political banter anymore. This was personal. "Excuse me?" she snapped, her voice laced with a barely contained rage. "Are you accusing someone on my team, or me, of being involved in illegal foreign lobbying? Because if that's what you're saying, then you need to speak clearly and stop hiding behind vague threats." Patel remained calm. In fact, he seemed almost amused. "I'm just saying," he replied. "When this information is released, and it will be released, a lot of people are going to be asking very uncomfortable questions." That's when the cameras caught Crockett. Visibly clenching her jaw, she leaned forward, fired up. "You're playing a dangerous game, Patel. Don't you dare come on this show and throw out baseless claims to distract from the real corruption happening in your party. You want to talk about foreign money? Let's talk about the people you worked for. The host tried to jump in. Let's keep this civil, please. But neither Crockett nor Patel was listening. The tension had reached its boiling point, and the millions watching at home couldn't look away. As Patel reached into his folder, flipping through a few pages, Crockett could be heard muttering under her breath, "This is disgusting," and that's when it all unraveled. Because Patel lifted a document, not visible to viewers, and said, "Here's the first email. Time-stamped. Verified. Let's see how long it takes for the denials to start." Viewers gasped. The host, clearly rattled, quickly cut to commercial. But the damage was done. The clip was already being ripped from live streams, posted to social platforms, and dissected in comment sections around the world. This wasn't just a debate anymore. This was a political flashpoint, and it had only just begun. It was the kind of moment political television producers dream of, raw, unscripted, and absolutely unmissable. As the debate spiraled out of control, Jasmine Crocke was no longer just defending policy. She was defending her name, her reputation, and possibly her entire political future. After Kash Patel made his veiled accusation, hinting at insider knowledge of damning communications linking someone from Crockett's political orbit to suspicious foreign dealings, the air turned electric. "And Crockett?" She exploded. Visibly shaken, eyes wide with fury, she leaned forward across the studio desk and snapped, her voice sharp and commanding, "You better be careful with your mouth, because what you just did, that's called slander." The audience watching from home, and everyone in the studio, felt the shift. This wasn't politics as usual. This was something deeply personal. The fire in her voice was unmistakable. "You come on this show, wave around papers, and act like you're some national hero," she continued. "But you're just another pawn pushing lies for clicks." Her tone was not just angry. It was blistering. Crockett wasn't just responding to a political slight. She was defending her integrity on a national platform, live in front of millions. And then she delivered a line that would be clipped, captioned, and shared endlessly on social media. "Don't you ever try to intimidate me with your half-truths and conspiracies." The moderator tried to intervene, his voice breaking in with, "Let's bring this back to facts." But Crockett wouldn't be silenced. Her mic was hot, and her passion was real. Meanwhile, Patel remained eerily calm, unshaken by the rising tension, even as Crockett's words echoed across the studio. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't backpedal. Instead, with the kind of smug certainty that makes for viral TV, he casually tilted his head, reached for the manila folder on the table, and replied, "I said I have documents. Want to see them?" That one sentence dropped like a bomb. Crockett blinked. The moderator froze again. The panel fell completely silent. For a full 5 seconds, an eternity in broadcast time, no one spoke. The cameras zoomed in slightly, catching the expression on Crockett's face, a mix of disbelief, anger, and strategic restraint. She was calculating. If she said too much, it could play badly. If she said too little, it might seem like retreat. But Patel wasn't waiting. He pulled out a stapled packet of papers from the folder and placed them on the table, neatly, deliberately. He didn't shove them across or wave them around. He simply laid them out like cards at a poker table. Calm, confident, dangerous. "Here," he said. "First page, internal memo, dated and time-stamped. No speculation, no conspiracy, just facts." Crockett shook her head in frustration. "You don't get to make accusations with unverified garbage." "And call it truth," she fired back. "Anyone can print emails. That doesn't make them real." But the clip had already gone viral. As the segment went into commercial break, producers scrambled behind the scenes. Phones lit up. Screenshots of the confrontation were flooding X, formerly Twitter, with hashtags like Nog Crockett vs Patel, Mart Slander or Truth. and receipts live climbing the trending charts. What no one expected, though, was what happened next. In a surprise move, Patel returned for a follow-up segment just 15 minutes later, this time alone with the host. And that's when things really blew up. With the documents now in hand, he pointed to what he claimed were verified communications between a Democratic aide and a foreign consulting firm, with alleged links to international lobbying violations. He named no one explicitly, but again the breadcrumbs were clear enough for viewers to follow. These documents, Patel said, holding one up to the camera, were obtained legally and have already been submitted to House oversight. This isn't political theater. This is the start of something bigger. And that was it. The moment became the story of the day, not just for news networks, but for the entire online political ecosystem. Analysts, influencers, and podcasters immediately jumped on the clip. Some praised Crockett for defending herself with passion and refusing to be bullied. Others celebrated Patel for remaining calm under fire and backing up his words with what appeared to be real documentation, but no one could deny it. The moment had gone nuclear. The internet was on fire. Comment sections were ablaze with debate. Was Patel grandstanding or pulling back the curtain on something much darker? Was Crockett being unfairly targeted? Or was her outrage a sign of something to hide? One thing was certain. The clip would be replayed, dissected, and debated for weeks. And in the ever-escalating war of political perception, this was a battle neither side could afford to lose. So after all the yelling, the viral clips, and the explosive live confrontation, one question remained. What exactly was Kash Patel talking about? As the camera cut back to the studio, and viewers came down from the adrenaline high of witnessing Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's fiery reaction, Patel calmly laid out his case. This time, without the interruptions, without the chaos, just him, a stack of papers, and a national audience waiting to know more. And what he revealed sent shockwaves through the political world. According to the documents Patel displayed, which included what appeared to be internal emails and detailed travel logs, the allegation was this: a senior Democratic aide, not Crockett herself, but someone allegedly close to her team, had engaged in backdoor communications with a controversial foreign energy conglomerate. Not just any company either. This was an overseas energy firm already loosely tied to multiple federal investigations regarding political donations, regulatory lobbying, and, most controversially, alleged access-buying behavior involving U.S. lawmakers. Patel didn't mince words. This isn't hearsay. These are communications that show intent, timing, and coordination, he said. And the connections to this office, let's just say, they're closer than anyone wants to admit. He never directly said Crockett was involved. But the implication was loud and clear. The same way a magician doesn't say where the rabbit is, but everyone sees the hat. The dots were being laid out, and viewers were drawing their own lines. The documents Patel held up, enlarged for broadcast, included email exchanges between an unnamed staffer and a foreign consultancy firm representing the energy company, Travel. Logs allegedly showing overlapping visits between the staffer and corporate officials at overseas events. Draft memo outlining potential legislative paths favorable to the energy company's expansion goals. Patel claimed these materials had already been turned over to the appropriate oversight bodies on Capitol Hill. Whether that was true remained to be seen. But the impact was immediate. Journalists, analysts, and digital sleuths scrambled to examine the documents. Some began analyzing headers, redactions, and even font types to determine authenticity. As of now, the files have not been independently verified by any major outlet. But the absence of verification didn't stop the firestorm. Because here's the real kicker. In the court of public opinion, perception is everything. And visually, the contrast could not have been more damaging for Crockett. While she had passionately defended herself in the earlier segment, many viewers saw someone emotional, combative, and defensive, while Patel, even if smug, appeared composed, prepared, and armed with evidence. It was that contrast, fair or not, that made the moment go nuclear online. Within an hour, hashtags like Jasmine Crocke meltdown, Kash Patel bombshell, and exposed on air were trending across X, Instagram, and YouTube. The full clip of the exchange racked up millions of views in under 24 hours, with influencers on both sides of the political aisle rushing to weigh in. Conservative commentators were quick to frame it as another liberal meltdown under pressure, while liberal voices questioned the timing and credibility of Patel's so-called documents, pointing out his long history of partisan maneuvering. This is straight out of the political hit job playbook, one Democratic strategist said on a follow-up panel. Find something unverified, leak it with just enough implication, and sit back while the chaos does the rest. Still, the damage was already in motion. Crockett's team released a short statement later that day, calling the segment a desperate smear attempt built on manipulated information and bad faith theatrics. But by then the internet had already spun the narrative. A dozen different ways. Some viewers asked, if the documents were so explosive, why hadn't any major agency acted on them yet? Others wondered aloud if they were fake. Why hadn't Crockett demanded a forensic analysis on air? And in a digital world where drama spreads faster than truth, these unanswered questions only fueled speculation. In essence, Patel didn't need to prove guilt in that moment. All he needed to do was create doubt, and that's exactly what he did, skillfully, strategically, and with the cameras rolling. And let's not forget, he promised there was more to come. That single line, "More will be coming," echoed across the political spectrum like a warning shot. What else was in his folder? Who else might be implicated? Was this part of a larger takedown strategy, or just an attention-grabbing stunt? The media buzzed with possibilities. Congressional aides braced for fallout, and Crockett, despite her fiery defense, was now part of a story that had officially gone national and wasn't going away anytime soon. Whether the documents were damning truth or dirty trick, one thing was clear. Patel had shifted the narrative, and Crockett was now playing defense in a game that had suddenly gone very public. Within 24 hours of the explosive live segment, the internet had done what it does best. It erupted. The now viral video clip of Jasmine Crocke clashing with Kash Patel had racked up over 5 million views across X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. It wasn't just trending, it was dominating the news cycle. News outlets scrambled to cover the story. Conservative networks ran headlines like, "Kash Patel drops bombshell on live TV, swamp exposed," while progressive commentators defended Crockett as a fearless fighter, refusing to be steamrolled by what they called a coordinated smear campaign. Podcasts, panels, YouTubers, and political TikTokers all had takes, some defending Patel's calm and collected delivery, others applauding Crockett's fiery refusal to be bullied. In an age where public opinion is shaped as much by memes and clips as by facts, this moment struck a nerve, but neither Crockett nor Patel stayed silent. Later that evening, Crockett fired back, not in a press conference but on social media, where the battle for the narrative was already raging. She posted a strongly worded message on X. "I will never let bullies like Kash Patel distract from the truth. This is a desperate attempt to spin lies and shift focus away from real corruption." The tweet exploded, quickly racking up likes and retweets from supporters, fellow lawmakers, and celebrities. Her defenders hailed her courage. Critics, meanwhile, pointed to her reaction on air, accusing her of being rattled and unprofessional. On the other side, Patel didn't back down, not even a little. In a follow-up interview, he doubled down on his claims and added even more fuel to the fire. "We're just getting started. People are finally seeing how deep the rot goes. The documents are real. The names will come out. This is just phase 1. That statement, vague, ominous, and perfectly tailored for maximum suspense, sent political Twitter into another tailspin. Who else was involved? Were more files coming? Was this a strategic rollout of dirt or an elaborate bluff? In truth, the facts were still murky. The documents Patel showed had not been independently verified. No official charges were filed. And the Oversight Committee had yet to confirm receipt of anything Patel claimed to have submitted. But none of that slowed the wildfire. Commentators from both sides used the moment to highlight something much bigger than just two political figures, arguing on TV. This wasn't just about Crockett versus Patel. It was about how fractured, performative, and dangerously reactive American politics has become. More and more, political confrontations are happening not behind closed doors, but on camera in real time for maximum impact. It's about going viral, creating the moment, and winning the internet long before the facts are ever sorted out. That's why this story struck such a chord. Was Patel's revelation legitimate? Or was it a masterclass in strategic manipulation, flashing suggestive evidence on air, knowing the internet would do the rest? Was Crockett's outrage sincere? Or was she expertly leaning into the role of the passionate, unflinching progressive under fire, knowing her supporters would rally around her defiance? At the heart of it all, one truth remained. What people saw in that moment told them more about their own politics than the truth of the documents themselves. To some, Crockett was a hero, standing up against what they saw as yet another baseless attack from the right. To others, Patel was a patriot, exposing corruption while staying calm under pressure. And maybe that's the scariest part, because in the modern media landscape, it's not the evidence that wins, it's the energy. Whoever owns the moment owns the narrative, and whoever owns the narrative wins the day. This viral showdown is just the latest, but certainly not the last, example of how today's political battles are fought, not just in Congress, but in studios, on live streams, and across social media feeds. Whether this moment fades or leads to something bigger remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. This wasn't just a TV debate. It was a flashpoint, a cultural moment, a sign of just how raw, personal, and combustible American politics has become. And if Patel's warning is true, if there is more to come, then the real storm might still be on the horizon. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on stories that the mainstream won't tell you. Drop a comment below. Do you think Patel exposed something real, or was this just political theater? We want to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay informed and stay bold.